Hello. In this video, I want to talk about art and patronage. So, I've been thinking a lot about artists. The only artist that I know in person, I know a lot over online, but in person, I really sadly do see the struggle. And granted, like, I am not a professional, and when I say professional, I mean am able to support myself full time through making art. But I want to talk about some things I kind of seen and I've learned over time. For a lot of art these days, it seems like a lot of it is what I'll call gig work oriented, which is quite interesting. I think with that, it can offer a lot of freedom, but also could be a bit precarious. If you ever take an art class, um, if you ever take an art class of any sort, you'll kind of learn how many artists had extreme amounts of training. It was like their career, so to say. So like in our current society, um, everyone is kind of encouraged to one complete high school, where you go through grade school, middle school, then you go to high school, then you're always encouraged to go to college. But more often than not, when you're done with doing that, sometimes you are encouraged to go to grad school. And I mean, depending on what you do, different things have different levels of where to go after that. Some things, like, you could get your doctorate or your master's degree. You could get a thing like an MBA. If you're in the medical field, you probably do something along the lines of a residency, which you do until you eventually become a doctor. And the point that I'm trying to say is that art. I think a lot of people get confused about art, and I find it interesting because the old, well, let's just say artists would usually work under a master painter, and they usually weren't allowed to start their own type of studio thing until they were able to, I believe, what is called a masterpiece. So I think I find it really interesting that they had an incredible amount of training, and probably a lot of artists nowadays, with being in the information age, um, all the information's at your fingertips, but you do have to know how to use it right and practice it right. Um, and I think many people have been able to make it work through patronage. And when I say patronage, that all has to do with, basically people giving you money to make art for them. And I find it interesting, in which it always seems like for an artist to really stand on their own 2 feet in a comfortable way, they have to do it through patronage, which, I'm not saying it always has to work this way, but in general, I think what a lot of people would say is the difference between something being gig work oriented and patronage is that patronage probably pays more of a long term wage of some sort. Not a wage, but like just something in the sense of monetary. And I'm not against either or. I think both could work, and depending on what you want to do, you could do either or. Both have their upsides, both have their downsides. Usually when I think of gig work is like the second it's over, unless they're going to patron you more. So I know it kind of cycles back. There's a chance that you could be without work. So, but with patronage, I mean, obviously those things are a bit more, well, they may not always be long term, but I think they could, kind of falling under the terms of like a commission. But usually when I think of patronage, I think of the old masters, in which more often than not they were commissioned to make a piece. And I guess it would always be different lengths of time that they would try to make the piece. Like, probably some would take anywhere from a month all the way to a year or even years. And I think that's really the interesting thing about it, in which people are able to stand on their own 2 feet, um, by doing more bold work. But I think the important thing to be aware is that with both of these, you may not be doing the art that you actually want to. because you're essentially being commissioned to do something in a way. And you have to hold to that thing, which very well could be the thing that you like to do. But I believe if you would ever do it for a career, sometimes you may need to make sacrifices and you may not be drawing exactly the thing you want to every day. And I think that's kind of like an important thing to keep in mind if you ever want to be a professional. I mean, to say anything is 100%, nothing is 100%. So I guess you could say everything's precarious. I mean, anything could happen. And I don't mean it in a bad way. I'm saying it's kind of just the thing. A thing that I've learned over my life is to get over the fact, like, I was always trying to be in a comfortable position. And I kind of realized that the norm is being in a precarious position. That's kind of the norm. If I could say, I don't like to talk personally because I'm not a professional artist and I probably shouldn't even be talking about something like this, but to live through certain events, say the dot-com bubble, which was, I believe, related to 9/11 or something like that. Then we had the 2008 financial crisis. Then we had the 2020 pandemic. And to live through all of this, I really have learned just how precarious everything is, how fragile life is, how anything could be there today, gone tomorrow. But you do have your skills. You do take your skills with you. And I think that that is one of the major benefits of being an artist. Granted, I always think it is important for every artist to like be the most skilled thing in their niche that they can possibly do. Granted, that's up to the artist to decide. But I've really thought of it quite a lot, in which in our current society, it doesn't really, like, it actively discourages art. I don't mean to always say that. I'm not going to say every place does that. But when you are... So, how do I put this? Because I guess, like, this is not always true, but let's just say from my personal experiences, and I can't generalize to everyone else based on this, but from what I've learned over time is that, in general, art is not encouraged. It's actively discouraged. We're more encouraged to do things regarding STEM. And I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I think it can be there. But I think the thing that everyone looks at it as it not being precarious. But the truth of the matter is it is. Whenever you are in like a STEM job, the whole goal of it, and every place that I ever have worked for, is to make you as easily replaceable as possible. And with the furtherments of artificial intelligence and whatnot, it's become even more precarious. At one point in time, it was considered a very safe career. It was considered very secure. But the more I see it is that every job is precarious in one way or another. And I think the only thing that's not precarious, well, I guess it still is to have a skill, like a skill that can't be taken away. And I think that that's really where art shines, in a sense, in which I feel like artists, like, they make something and they become known for it, and you can't detach them from it. They're so connected to it. And it's not like when you're in the STEM field, in which a lot of technology just relies on how many bodies could we throw at this. And in general, almost every job, and I understand it too. I mean, it's definitely the way it should be for the company, in which they try to make it as easy to replace people as possible. But with that, and your skills being generally applied, and with everyone having a similar skill set, everyone in the labor market could be swapped easily. So I see kind of the problem with it is, okay, great, you have a STEM job, so do a lot of other people, and salaries are low. And I tend to look at it through a lens of, if you are an artist and you're independent in some way, say an independent contractor, I think you have a lot more freedom to really go out there, take the projects that you want to take. Granted, it may not always be the thing that you want to do, but perhaps you can enjoy it. And I think that if you go into a lot of STEM with the idea that you're not replaceable, I'm sorry to say it, but the one thing I've learned time and time again is that that doesn't really matter. I know it sounds weird, but I guess you could say that's kind of the dangerous thing about relying on any one company or person, which kind of goes back to the patronage, in which I have heard horror stories of people relying on a single patron only, and then they kind of pull back, or they get blacklisted in some sense, or something along the lines of that happens, and then that person is scrambling to find their ends meet because of the reliance on one person. So it's very important to know that reliance on one person or company is precarious. And if I would say, and if I had to give some advice, I would probably say diversify patronage, which I would say gig work would probably fall under that as well. And live under your means. I would really say that. I think it's, I hate to say it, but even if you have the best patron in the world, to have that one reliance on them could be incredibly dangerous. If something happens, if that person dies, something happens to them, you don't hear back from them, and you're reliant on them. To rely on any one person is such a dangerous position to be in. And, I guess that maybe that's enough said. And if you could diversify that in any way without getting other people mad, I would definitely go for that. If someone says to you like, "No, I want to be the only exclusive person in your life to patron you through art," do be cautious of that, because I've read a lot of information on that, and I don't want to offend anyone, but it's just like when you have that, they can hold so much under your head. And even when it comes to, like, it's really hard to see the difference between one person or one company, because in my experience, they could hold stuff under your head. And the one thing I've realized, and I'm not going to say this of any company, and please don't think that I'm representing anything, and I'm just saying this out of my own personal opinion, that companies will act the same way. They will hold stuff over your head. They will get you to do more for the cheapest price possible. I don't mean it in a bad way, and probably that statement isn't true, because there probably are companies out there who do try to pay rightly, but you have to think that the overwhelming majority is probably not going to do that, and it's going to be just as precarious, and it can be very dangerous. I would also say, like, having an audience that you could take with you in one way or another is also incredibly important. And I said here, live under your means. I think it's incredibly important for everyone to save money in one way or another, to always be planning for a bad day. And I know that sounds a bit weird. Like, some people will call it like a nest egg. And the one thing that I've learned about life, and I don't mean to scare you, is that some people will save for a rainy day. And in my experience, it's not a matter of if the rainy day will come, or it's not a matter of if the rainy day will come, it's when the rainy day will come. Considering the economy that I have lived through, I kind of realized that about every 10 years on average, and I cannot draw an egg for my life, every 10 years on average, it seems like we have some type of recession or something like that. And it really affects, like, I've seen it always affect my friends and family in one way or another, and usually at the level of the most basic necessities, in which prices go up on that. And I always try to be very careful with everything, especially in this day when everything is a subscription and you can't get away from that. I tend to have very little subscriptions at all. Pretty much the only subscriptions that I have is for my website. But the point I'm trying to say here is do live under your means if you want to be in the arts, because you never know. Like, I think I read a statistic that said most people live paycheck to paycheck where I'm from, and I'm like, wow, that is scary, because it's like the second you're reliant on one company, and when the economy gets bad and they have a layoff, you may have to accept the job as soon as possible that you don't really want, just so you can survive because you don't have savings. And I guess you could say, yeah, live under your means when you can. I've never really seen the purpose in more fancy stuff. I mean, I understand quality to a certain extent because I have gone through experiences in which if you don't pay for something of quality, sometimes you will pay for something cheaper 10 times until you effectively paid for the quality. But back on focus. So, everything is a sacrifice when it comes to doing this. And I think people definitely can make it work, but I do know that it probably is going to take a good deal of time to find your niche art thing. Rarely do I think people are just going to find it within 2 years, but rather over a period of 10 years, and then even after that, ever evolving. So please do keep that in mind. And I do truly hope that this video gets you thinking, gets you understanding about one person or one company. And even if that one person or one company could offer you some stability for even a year, who knows if it's going to be there the next year? Because where I'm from, companies have right to fire for any reason whatsoever. So we don't have any types of protections or whatnot. So, I mean, I understand both sides, but just like, to not, if you have bills that are expensive, and considering when the economy gets bad, and you have to pay them somehow, I mean, there's a chance that you could just lose it all if you don't have that stable income job, and if you don't have any savings at all. And I guess I say this out of precautionary and trying to help you, in a sense, just from what I've seen. And yeah, probably a lot of people may not like them telling you about diversifying your patronage. You could always do different things for different audiences, and you don't always have to tell other people that you have multiple patrons. I mean, you could, but I'm saying, like, if someone's going to get mad at you, I've seen kind of the same thing in which certain places that I've known, they don't like that you may moonlight, which moonlighting effectively means that when you're done with your job for the day, you do something else for money. And a lot of jobs have things like NDAs, non-disclosure agreements, in which you can't work for any other similar thing in your job field, or you can't do it for a certain period of time. Or in the case of moonlighting, they want the company to be your only reliance for income or money. And that is so dangerous because they try to pigeonhole you into dependence with a false sense of security that, as they are the job provider. Very, 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 it's very precarious is what I'll say, and it offers many people a false sense of security. And I feel like most people don't understand that until they either get laid off or fired for whatever reason, if that does happen, or the economy gets bad, something along the lines of that. But yeah, I sure hope this video helps you out in some way or another. I did want to make it because it got me thinking. Perhaps one day when I'm more of a professional, I could touch upon it again. I think a lot of these, whether you're working with a company or a patron, saying one person or something like that, even at a time or even with multiple people, it goes both ways. I think both parties can do it correctly. Both people can do it in the right way and have a good artist-patron relationship. I definitely think that can exist. So please don't make it seem like that the artist is bad or the patron is bad or the company is bad. Everything goes both ways in a sense. Well, you know what I mean. I hope so. I'm trying to say that both actors can be good. One could be good, the other could be bad, the other could be bad, the other could be good, etc. So yeah, I hope this video helps you. If you have a question, please ask below. If you like the video, please like it. And if you like my channel, please subscribe. Thank you very much for listening. Bye.